In a study published by Harvard's Robert Putnam and David Campbell of Notre Dame, they've discovered why the fastest growing religious group in America today are people with no religion. It's gone from 7% in the last decade to 17% of Americans. They discovered that this group is made up primarily of younger Americans. Today, almost 30% of young Americans say they have no religion. And the number one reason they cite for leaving the church in this study is politics. These young people say that they've been turned off to religion by conservative politics. They see religion as intolerant, judgmental, hypocritical, and homophobic. They also found that the lack of church membership did not mean that these young people did not believe in God or think of themselves as spiritual. On the contrary, most believe in God and consider themselves spiritual. They simply do not see churches as places where they can find God and spirit because of this narrow set of issues which they align with conservative politics. The primary reason. The research showed that if churches want to have a role in the life of young Americans today, they need to become less politically partisan. And if the Republican Party wants to draw more young people to itself, they need to stop being as aligned to conservative religious dogma on issues such as homosexuality. It's interesting that the young people in the study, by vast majority, were comfortable with homosexuality, issues like gay marriage and things like that, but less than a majority were comfortable with abortion. Very interesting dichotomy. Now, on the other side of the issue, when you look at the political left has to find a way to tap into the spiritual hunger for meaning in the American people. Rabbi Michael Lerner said in the Boston Globe, many secularists believe that voters who side with the right against their own economic self-interests are deluded or dumb or both. But what those critics miss is that many people get to the religious right because it's the only voice willing to challenge the despiritualization of daily life. The call for a life that is driven by a higher purpose than money, and to provide actual experiences of supportive community for those whose daily life is suffused with alienation and spiritual loneliness. He said the left cannot seem to talk about love and kindness and generosity without feeling that it has violated its commitment to a scientific form of rationalism. And Lerner's sentiments are much the same as what Stephen Carter said over a decade ago in his book, Culture of Disbelief. He wrote, "There's a perception that taking religion seriously in our secular culture is something that only wild-eyed zealots do." And another thing that many people on the political left are confused about is that the Tea Party is not a religious party. Religion is not the driver or the glue for this new political phenomenon. Yet many political liberals don't get it. The Tea Party has rallied a number of constituencies, which include some religious people and even some racist people. But neither of these are the primary issue that binds them together. The one universal in the Tea Party is a desire to stop runaway spending and deficits. It's an economic issue, not a religious wedge issue. And by purposely avoiding being co-opted by wedge issues, the Tea Party has effectively brought together some disparate groups. And as they say, politics makes strange bedfellows. And it doesn't matter if you're like me and you disagree with almost every word that comes out of Glenn Beck's mouth. He's right. He's right that there is a deep spiritual hunger in America for meaning. Whether you're politically left or right or ambidextrous, whether you're religiously left or right or in between, deep down in the American psyche, there is a hunger for deeper meaning. Now, it's a huge mistake to try to discover that meaning in the political process. The meaning comes from religious values, what we might call our sense of the ultimate, what some call God and others call good. Yet if you're a politician on either side of the aisle, it's also a mistake not to build on America's passion for meaning and their spiritual hunger for wholeness, because it runs deep and it motivates people in their lives to do unbelievable things, even against their own self-interest. I'm not suggesting a religious left should gather to mirror the religious right. Not at all. Religions that become politically partisan become anemic. And religions that become politically partisan are driving people out of the church. The religious right is driving people right out of the church. What I'm suggesting is that religions be religions and offer, among other things, moral critique and criteria for society, but not in politically partisan ways. And that politicians, especially on the left, stop being so afraid to speak of their own religious convictions. Barack Obama has helped the American left in many ways become more comfortable with religious sentiment. And I believe that's one of the reasons why the right has continued to label him as a Muslim, to try to deny that his positions could possibly be influenced by Christian values. The danger in American politics is not religious sentiment. The danger is religious extremism. The danger is not being open to religious inspiration, it's being blinded by religious sectarianism. The danger is not religious influence in politics. It is if one religion or one religious perspective is allowed to dominate the agenda. That's the danger. The views of Christians and Jews and Hindus and Buddhists and atheists should all be a part of the mix of our incredible democracy. This amazing experiment in human governance. But religion and churches themselves have to rise above that fray. Have to be about something bigger and better, and at their best, religions transcend the differences that exist in our world, including our political differences. In his book, Faith and Politics, the former Republican Senator John Danforth, he describes one way that religion does this in our nation's capital, believe it or not. At 8 o'clock on each Wednesday morning, a dozen or so senators gather in an interior room on the first floor of the United States Capitol for a weekly prayer breakfast. It's an intimate hour together with no public or media present. The senators are Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives. Some are regular in their attendance, others come only occasionally, kind of like you. After the breakfast, the leader for the day's meeting, who was chosen the previous week by the group, speaks for 5 to 10 minutes on a subject of his or her choice, then opens up the discussion to the other senators. At the end of the hour, the leader asks a colleague to offer a closing prayer. Senators who attend the Wednesday breakfast are from a variety of religious traditions. So the discussions are neither narrowly sectarian or heavily theological. Instead, they tend to be quite personal, touching on life experiences of the sort that bind diverse senators together. Topics Danforth has spoken on include the physical exhaustion of demanding work and the embarrassment of being wrong. Because these are common to everyone, certainly to all members of the Senate. Feelings of exhaustion and embarrassment are the kinds of subjects appropriate for discussion at a prayer breakfast. Not discussed at these meetings are the contentious issues of the day, where members are divided by party or political philosophy or regional interests. Fighting among one another over those issues is the everyday life of senators. An hour after leaving the prayer breakfast, members will be in committee meetings wrangling about taxes and spending and over how to confront terrorism. Politics is contentious, he tells us, but for a brief time each week, religion brings otherwise combative senators together. As demonstrated by the prayer breakfast in the Senate, religion has the capacity to transcend our political process and our political differences and bring people together. Now, if this Church of All Souls were to identify itself with one political party, it would be an enormous mistake. When a religion hitches its star to a political party or vice versa, they both get corrupted in the process. May you be deeply engaged in the politics of our nation. Deeply engaged. But may you put your faith somewhere higher. There is a place beyond left and right, beyond liberal and conservative, beyond believer and non-believer, beyond red and blue, black and white, rich and poor. Some people call it the Promised Land. Some call it Zion. Some call it Mecca or the Kingdom of Heaven. Some call it the seeds of real peace on the earth. Here on the corner of 29th and Peoria, we call it All Souls Unitarian Church. And I'll meet you in that special place right here every Sunday and every chance I get. While your faith in Congress and our government may be at an all-time low, I hope your faith in the ground upon which we stand here in this sanctuary remains high. Because where we are now, right now, is holy ground. God bless you. Amen.